Okay. Pleasant day to everyone and to our listeners. I hope that you're all having a great day today. So, um, allow me to introduce to you the amazing researchers that I'm with today. For the first researcher, which is Miss Angelica Ladion, Miss Sheila May Sindingan, Miss Tablizo Erika Mhay, and yours truly, Joezel Garcia. We're all alumni from Rizal Technogical University that is currently located in the Philippines. So without any further ado, let us now proceed to our agenda for today. We are here to present and discuss to you our research paper entitled Code Switching During a Synchronous Session in an Online-Based Education. So now code switching, or the capacity to switch between multiple languages or communication styles during a discussion, has become an essential skill in today's globally interconnected world. So learning code switching, it helps us to communicate effectively in a variety of social and professional contexts. So promoting understanding and cooperation across linguistic and societal boundaries. So the utilization of this technique is commonly used in countries that utilizes more than two or more languages or dialects. So in this presentation, we will uncover the findings that we found during the conduction of this research paper. Next slide, please. Now for the statement of the problem, which is we have three. For number one is, what are the types of code switching does the student usually use in synchronous classes? For number two, what are the factors that influence students in using code switching in a synchronous class? And for the third one, how does code switching affect students' oral communication skills during synchronous classes? Next slide, please.
Okay, so now let's move on to the methodology. Research design. This study applied mixed methods, which are qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative survey instrument used to analyze the student's perception of how it affects their oral communication during synchronous class. In the quantitative method, observed through recorded synchronous class and interviewed the students that obtained the data and the aspects that influence them to use code switching during synchronous class. Next, please.
Now, for the research method used, this study employed a mixed method in research, which describes the types and the factors that influence the student in code switching in a synchronous class. It includes the student situations and reasoning in using code switching with the use of survey questionnaires. That's all. Next, please.
Okay, for the description of respondent, in this study, a total of 30 students were questioned. The participants were evenly distributed between the Bonnie and passing campuses of RTU, with 15 respondents from each school. All the respondents were first-year college students enrolled in the Purpose of Communication course at RTU, Bonnie, and passing campuses. It's noteworthy that the participants belong to the English major, reflecting a specific academic background. This selective approach ensures a focus and relevant study, as the research is concentrated on first-year English major students enrolled in the Purpose of Communication course at both campuses of RTU. Next, please.
Okay, so now the statistical treatment of data. The researcher used ranking. Ranking will be used to identify the numbers of respondents that utilize the several types of code switching that is usually used in synchronous class. For the next one,
Now, for the weighted mean, it is used to identify how code switching affects students or communication skills during synchronous class. As you can see in the weighted mean formula, we have the weighted average, number of terms to be averaged, rates applied to the x values, and data values to be averaged. That's all.
Now let us proceed to research instruments. First, we need an observation. The observational method involves researchers watching a recorded video of the respondents. Observing recorded interactions provide researchers with valuable insights into their communication and spontaneous reaction, contributing to a comprehensive understanding of the subjects under study. Now, we also the researchers did interview. The interview method involves engaging with respondents through open-ended questions. Researchers ask questions that allow participants to express their thoughts, opinions, and experiences in their own words. Last, the researchers did Likert scale. The Likert scale facilitates the collection of quantitative data, enabling researchers to measure and analyze the degree of agreement or disagreement among respondents. The Likert scale provides a standardized and efficient way to gauge attitudes, perceptions, or preferences within the surveyed population. Next, please.
Okay, so for the source of data, the study used video recording as the primary source in gathering data. To gather the delicate details and visual evidence of the participants' talk, interaction, and comportment of the language used during synchronous sessions. The video recording helps researchers focus on interpreting the data on how the students utilize code switching during synchronous class. Next, please.
The collected data are categorized through the various type of code switching seen in an online class. The collected data, which pertains to instances of code switching in an online classes, was systematically categorized based on the various types observed. Researchers carefully reviewed the collected material and assigned each instances to its respective category, ensuring a comprehensive understanding of the diverse code switching phenomena present. After categorizing the data, the next step involves ranking the categories by frequency. So this means identifying which type of code switching occur more frequently than other within the database. To further quantify the prevalence of each code switching type, researchers calculate the percentage representation of each category within the total instances of code switching. So this quantitative approach enhances the precision of data analysis and facilitates comparison between code switching categories. Next slide, please. For the result and discussion, let's start with the SOP1, which is what are the types of code switching does the student usually use in a synchronous class? The findings indicates a hierarchy in the usage of code switching types, with extrasentential being the most prevalent, followed by intrasentential, and intersentential being the least utilized. So these patterns shed light on the nuanced ways in which respondents employ code switching as linguistic research to convey their ideas effectively in the context of online communication. First is extrasentential code switching. The predominant type of code switching observed in the data is again, the extrasentential code switching. So the respondents employ this code switching type as linguistic strategy to effectively connect and articulate their idea. Next is intersentential code switching. It follows closely in frequency in the intersentential code switching type. This occurs after initially expressing an idea in one language. They seamlessly transition to another language to further support or elaborate on the topic. Last, we have the intersentential code switching. So among the observed code switching type, intersentential code switching is the least utilized by respondents. So this type of code switching is employed by respondents as a deliberate strategy to emphasize specific answers or ideas. Next, please.
Okay, for the next one, which is for our SOP2. So based on the results, the factors that these are the factors that influence the respondents to use code switching in a synchronous session. So these are those factors. So for the first one is lack of vocabularies. Second one, peer pressure. Third one is expressing ideas. Fourth one is anxiety. Fifth one is participation. And sixth is following the language rules inside the classroom. Seventh is miscommunication. And then for the last one is barrier to learn the language. Now, can someone please, next slide.
Now let us proceed to the third statement of the problem, which is how does code switching affect students' oral communication skills during a synchronous class? In the collected data, a significant majority of respondents express a strongly agreed stance when asked about the impact of code switching on their oral communication skills during synchronous sessions. So the data analysis reveals a notable consensus among respondents, with a majority strongly agreeing that code switching influences their oral communication skills during synchronous sessions. So these findings open avenues for further investigations into the specific dynamic of code switching in an online communication and its implication for language proficiency and effective expression in synchronous learning environments. Next.
Okay, so another one is among the 15 indicators, code switching avoids breakdowns in communication got the highest responses that respondents agreed with. So therefore, code switching avoids breakdown got the highest vote out of the 15 indicators presented to the respondents, and a high number of respondents that agreed to that specific point. This helps them to explain and give their idea much clearer to the class without the need of breaking it down to fully understand their point. Therefore, this points out, or this clarifies that this type of code switching actually helps them to helps their oral communication skills during asynchronous class. Next slide, please.
Okay, so for the conclusion, in the light of the findings of the study, the following conclusions were drawn. The first one is types of code switching the students usually use during synchronous sessions. In conclusion, several types of code switching are still observed in certain language classes, particularly in an English class. Students who establish their linguistic structure in a discussion such that they could readily understand or construct sentences and properly transmit the idea. To avoid misconceptions, the clarity of the information to be delivered is still important during a conversation in an online-based education, which is why students code switch from their second language to their native language for better construction of concise ideas. The second one is factors that influence students in using code switching in a synchronous class. Respondents are using code switching to convey their thoughts and ideas very well during synchronous sessions. This allows them to make their words expansive based on the topic they are explaining without hesitating. The respondents can participate because they know code switching is helpful, even if there are factors that can be hindrance during synchronous sessions. It is important that others can understand the things that the respondents are explaining very well to avoid misunderstanding their thoughts. Overall, code switching cannot be avoided, even if the students are majoring in a certain language, because there are factors that become a hindrance, and it shows that it takes time to become fluent in using a language. Last but definitely not least, code switching affects the students' oral communication skills during synchronous class. Students improve their oral communication skills during synchronous sessions. When they code switch from English to Filipino, they can express their thoughts and ideas freely. Also, code switching helps the students to better understand the topic or the lesson during asynchronous sessions. So that's it for the conclusions. Now let's move on to the recommendations.
Now, for the last part of this presentation, we have recommendations. This study reveals the causes that influence the learners to utilize code switching during synchronous classes. The following recommendations are presented. First, the teachers. Code switching should be utilized by the teachers as a language teaching tool in teaching the target languages. Next, language learners. Utilizing code switching will help language learners to master the second language. Next slide, please. Next, future researchers. Utilization of code switching will give researchers the idea of acquiring knowledge regarding the topic. And lastly, school facilitators. Expressing the ideas is very important. This way, school facilitators will be the way to help students that are still new to the second language. And that's all for the research presentation titled Code Switching during a Synchronous Session in an Online-Based Education. Thank you for listening.